Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I'm going to make a couple of notebooks. I think these are really fabulous gifts and they're pretty easy to make, but they do require that you have the We Are Makers Cinch or something equivalent because these are going to be coil bound notebooks. And I'm starting off with some medium weight chipboard. You don't necessarily need something quite as thick as this. I like the feel of the medium weight chipboard because I really think that it helps to make the notebook feel a lot more substantial. Plus, these are a really good pocket size notebook. I'll show you two sizes, and both of them I feel can fit pretty nicely in the palm of your hands, which means that they're really easy to carry around, keep on the go with you. But that means that if you're on the go, you might not always have a firm surface to write on. So I think having that extra thickness of the medium weight chipboard on the front and back covers will really help it to, you could just hold it in your hands and it'll help keep everything nice and firm as you write. So I really love it for that. But if you don't have a medium weight chipboard, you could use lightweight chipboard, you could use heavyweight cardstock, you could use a cereal box, anything that you'd like, because I am going to show you how to cover this so that none of that, or at least in this case, very little of it is showing. I've cut my chipboard pieces to 5.5 tall by 4 inches wide, and all of the notebook pages that will be bound in this notebook are cut to that exact same size, 4 wide by 5.5 tall. So what I did was I lined the front and the back of my chipboard edge to edge with some score tape. I like to buy my score tape in this nice wide roll that I use for mini album covers, notebook covers like these, because on the covers you don't want to have anything that's going to bubble up or leave glue marks or anything like that. And I like for the covers, because they do get the bulk of the wear and tear, to be well secured so that it doesn't fall off. You don't get any anything that's going to kind of look uneven. And so edge to edge dry adhesive is really, really great for that. I'm not really making these notebooks to last forever and ever. It's not a keepsake. So I fully anticipate that when I give this away and the person finishes using all the pages in the notebook, they're just gonna toss it. So that's why I'm not too worried about getting some liquid adhesive here so that it's nice and permanent. But if you are making something like this and you think that you're making something that somebody might want to use as a keepsake, then definitely add a little bit of liquid adhesive to really make sure this is a nice permanent stick. All I'm doing is covering the front and the back of the chipboard with my front and back covers, and the inside front and back covers as well, so that it looks good on the outside and it looks good on the inside. Now, once that's done, I'm going to just trim carefully off of the edges of this. There's going to be some scraps that you'll be able to save and use from your 6x6 pattern paper, but this particular pattern paper I absolutely love. This is from the Not Too Shabby Christmas in Gold paper pad, which is part of the paper pad club this month, and the deer is gorgeous. So I really wanted to make sure that I positioned the deer so that it's nice and front and center. I don't want to just glue or adhere it to my chipboard like I did the others, where it's a repeat pattern, so it doesn't really matter what section I use. But for a design like that, the deer, I really want to make sure that I've got that nice and kind of, the focal image of my cover. Now, because I'm using a chipboard that is craft color, I want to make sure that it is going to not show, because all I've done is I've just adhered the pattern papers to the front and to the back of this chipboard. It's not wrapped around so that you cover the chipboard completely. So all I did was I'm using a black marker. This is an acrylic marker, and I am just inking and coloring in the edges. So this takes away the white core of the pattern paper, and it also takes away the craft color of the chipboard that is exposed. And I'll do this on all 4 edges. So this is a really easy way of creating your notebook covers, because basically you just need to adhere your pattern papers to the front and the back of your chipboard. If you're using chipboard, if you're using a heavyweight cardstock, whatever alternative you're using to give some extra sturdiness to the covers, it's as easy as just gluing your pattern papers to the front and the back. And this is just a nice optional finishing touch, so that and I think for me, especially because the pattern papers I'm using are so dark, that white core of the pattern paper and the craft color isn't too bad. It goes okay with this color palette of papers, but all the same, I think the black looks better, and so it does make it look a little bit neater, a little bit more polished and finished. And I am making these to give away, so I do want them to look nice, even if they aren't meant to really be keepsakes that are, held on to forever and ever. So that's really it for the covers. Super simple. I'll show you another method of creating a wrapped cover after this, so stay tuned. I'll show you a different size and a different way to make your covers. But here's my cinch. I have the original size cinch, and I'm putting a little bit of washi down because that's going to mark where I put line up the edge of both my paper and my notebook covers, because they've been cut to exactly the same size. Now, whenever I do anything with the cinch, I always punch the holes for the notebook pages first because it's no big deal to waste a sheet of copy paper, which is all that this is. You could definitely use lined paper if you want, or graph paper, whatever you'd like. But I don't want to punch through my covers until I know for certain this is exactly how I want the holes to look. And with the cinch, you have the ability to pull some pegs out, which you see the first leftmost and rightmost pegs, they are pulled out, which means they aren't going down and punching when I punch the rest of the holes, because I don't need them due to the size of this particular notebook. These are, this is wire coil binding, and I think they're almost always in long strips like these, but you can just use wire cutters to cut them down to size. And then I load in all of my notebook pages. I put my front cover on, and then I put my back cover on as if I was flipping the back cover to meet with the front. And then I will cinch these wires closed. And by doing it in this order, the seam or those outside edges of the coil, they're hidden on the inside, but on the back. That way you don't have the edge of the coil on the outside where it could snag on something and then bend or distort. So I always cinch my my wires this way to hide them on the inside of the notebook. Okay, so now onto the second way to wrap your covers. So this is going to look a little bit more polished and finished, I think, because what I'll do is essentially wrap my chipboard entirely. And so this notebook is smaller so that I can still use these lovely 6x6 pattern papers. So this has been cut, the chipboard has been cut to 3 1/4 wide by 4 inches tall. So 3 1/4 wide by 4 inches tall, and my pattern paper is 5 1/4 wide by 6 inches tall. And all I'm doing is scoring along all four edges just shy of 1 inch. The paper itself is 1 inch larger than my chipboard along all four edges. The paper is 5¼ by 6. My chipboard is 3¼ by 4. And the reason to cut this just shy of 1 inch all the way around is because I'm using medium weight chipboard. It's got a little bit of thickness to it, so I want to make sure that there's enough pattern paper to actually wrap around the chipboard to account for that thickness. And if I had scored exactly at 1 inch, then likely I probably wouldn't actually be folding on the score line as I wrap that pattern paper around, because it's just too tight of a fit. So that's why to score just a smidge, and it's not even, it's maybe a 1/16, 1/32 of an inch wider. It's really just a fly's eyelash shy of 1 inch all the way around. And I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to be very generous with my score tape, line it, adhere some double-sided adhesive tape as, edge to edge as I can get it, but only on the one side to start. Because I'm going to have that adhered down to my pattern paper. And then what I'm going to do is fold all of these flaps in. And as you can see, I did cut a triangle off of each of the four corners. That's called mitering your corners. And the reason to do that is so that when these four flaps, because they're going to be glue tabs essentially, when these get glued over to the inside or the back side of this piece of chipboard, there's going to be a lot of bulk in that corner unless you remove some of that excess paper. So by cutting off that triangle, it helps to reduce the overlap, and it makes your corners a lot neater, and it makes everything a little bit more level on the inside. This is the inside, but we still want the inside to look nice and to look finished and look like it's store-bought, but it'll be handmade and it'll still have all of that nice quality. Okay, so I lined this also with double-sided dry adhesive, but I'm putting a squiggle of liquid adhesive right along the chipboard. It helps to kind of soften that edge. I learned that from bookbinders, and I really like the effect of it. So once I've glued all of these in, then I'm going to use this piece, which I've cut to 3 inches wide by 3¾ of an inch tall. Because this is 3 inches wide, I can actually get 2 of these decorative panels for each 6x6 pattern paper, which is really great because then for this notebook, instead of needing 4 full sheets of 6x6, you just need 3 sheets of 6x6 pattern paper, because your inside front and your inside back covers, you can use the same pattern paper or sheet of 6x6 to get both pieces. And I'll do that again. So this is my front cover. I always like to do the back cover first, just in case there's something to learn and improve upon when I go to make the front. That way the front always looks a little bit nicer if there's going to be a difference between the two. But I did essentially the same thing. I cut my triangles off of the corners. Now, when you do cut your corners and you miter your corners like this, you just want to take note to not cut too closely to the chipboard itself. Because if you cut right up to the corner of your chipboard, it will leave some of your chipboard exposed, because there has to be some pattern paper that also wraps around that corner. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap, but that's good because that will ensure that your chipboard is entirely enclosed by pattern paper. And that's what helps to give it that really nice polished look. So again, I'm going to line my my glue tabs here with some double-sided dry adhesive. Now, if you're making this as, say, a mini album or a journal or diary, something that you think somebody might want to keep for a long time, you might want to squiggle on a little bit more liquid adhesive than what I am using. But I'm making these as just notebooks, and the size of these notebooks are so small, they're really good for things like to-do lists, grocery lists, maybe just, to have on your nightstand in case you have some brilliant ideas right as you're going to bed or right as you're waking up and you want to have something to be able to jot those ideas down. So these are just small little notebooks. I fully anticipate that when they're done being used, they'll get tossed. So I'm not too worried about using a nice permanent adhesive. But if you are making this for something that you think might be kept, just do a nice squiggle of liquid adhesive because that will give it a nice permanent bond. But you can see once we get those inside decorative pattern papers on, it really cleans up that inside because it covers up the rest of the chipboard. You still have a really nice border of that pattern paper that's being that was folded over from the front and back covers, and it is a really nice polished finish. Now, when it comes to binding, this is going to be the exact same. I'm using the same coil loop wires. These are specific to the We Are Memory Keepers cinch because the holes and the loops on your wire have to line up. The spacing has to be the same. And with this type of binding, that spacing is referred to as the pitch. Specifically, the pitch denotes how many holes are there per 1 inch. The cinch punches at a 2-to-1 pitch, meaning there are 2 holes punched for every 1 inch. That's the spacing. And the wires that you look for, they don't necessarily have to be made by We Are makers. It's not proprietary. You can get any coil bound wires that you would like. Just make sure that they are 2-to-1 pitch if you are using something like the cinch or the multi-cinch. And I always like to, as I mentioned earlier, punch my notebook pages first. Even it just helps you to know that you're lining everything up correctly. And what I've done is, just like before, I put my notebook pages on first, then my front cover, and with my back cover, I flip it as if I was just turning that back cover to the front. And then I'm going to use the back of my cinch, pull down the lever, and close it. These are really cute little 1/2-inch wire-bound notebook, and the papers are so gorgeous. These are from the Christmas in Gold by Not Too Shabby. It's part of the Paper Pad Club for October 2024. If you want to check that out, you can expand the description box below. I'll leave links to everything that I used. I made a couple of these, and I'll be making a couple more because I think they're really great little gifts to give. The mini one, the really small one that is 3¼ by 4 inches. I mean, that's almost pocket size. So really cute, fun gifts, great for anybody, really. I love these because they are really gorgeous and they are seasonal. It's from a Christmas paper pad, but it's not Christmas. So I do feel like it's going to be great for all year round. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.